All right, we're live with Mike and Jeremy from the Voice of Reason podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining in. I've been sitting here reading the comments. We got a nice waiting room built up, and we're excited to have Mike and Jeremy on. How you guys doing, man?
Excellent.
Awesome.
How are you doing? Good. Really excited to be here, man. I really appreciate you having us on the show.
Yeah.
Doing really good. I had a great time on your show. I can't remember exactly when that was. Sometime last year, wasn't it? Or earlier this year?
I
A
have
couple
no track
months
of
ago.
time.
I don't think it was that. I don't remember. Now.
Yeah. I can remember vividly what happened in 1987, but I couldn't tell you what happened last April. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So
100% about that.
There's just so much going on right now. Everything's a blur.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I find like drifting off, remembering things back in the day more and more to almost like anchor me from the ridiculousness of today.
Yeah.
Because it just knocks you around.
Yeah, well, last week, Jeremy asked me, said, what are we going to talk about next Friday? And I was like, man, let's just wait till Thursday because the news happens so fast. We was talking about it in the waiting room. The news happens so fast, so quick. You can't keep up with it. One of the stories this week that really jumped out at me was Nikki Haley just kissed the ring. And I'm not surprised, and I want to get your guys' opinion on it. I'm really not shocked. I knew she would come around eventually, but there for just a split second, she was almost giving me just a little bit of hope that she might be the one holdout,
Right.
Yeah.
Just for a second. But
what I found interesting about her is if you really watch what's going on in all of the polling and those, elections going on, she's getting votes and she's not even in the race. I mean, Donald Trump is claiming victory in these things, and he's right, but he's not winning by a blowout margin, and he's barely inching out someone who's not even in the race. People are going to these things and voting for her. That's a bad sign, but she could have at least held out and waited till the end and seen what happened and go, look, I told you guys. I told you, but you didn't. And instead she went down there and kissed something. I don't know if it was a ring or not, but she kissed something.
Yeah. And, I've sat and tried to question it from the angle of, okay, what's her end game here? Is she trying to be VP, or is she trying to appease his base and keep them happy, for life?
I agree. That was my theory. I think that that was kind of the first step on her possibly being the VP, not after all.
Yeah.
Because Trump, he's dumb, but he is a numbers guy.
Yeah.
And he needs her supporters. But I think it's going to backfire because most of those, after she dropped out, those weren't votes, I don't think, for Nikki Haley. Those were votes against Donald
Oh, yeah.
Trump.
Absolutely.
100%. You know what I mean? So they might get some of the Nikki Haley supporters, but I don't think they're going to pull all.
A lot of people have said
if that happens.
A lot of people have said, and I've seen reporters ask this question. They'll say, if he's indicted or if he's convicted, will you vote for him? No. If she endorses him, will you vote for him? And they have said no. But not only that, they will vote for Joe Biden. We're talking about Republican voters that are starting to openly talk about revenge voting.
Yeah.
That's how much some of these people have hated to see what happened to their party. I mean, I'm glad at least they finally figured it out eventually. But if you're starting to see them talk about it openly, that's not a good sign for Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, or anyone in the Republican Party.
No, not at all. And I think he's, he really, like you said, he's going out here thinking, well, they're voting for me, I'm winning, but those people aren't going to show back up for him in November. And he needs to appeal to the independents and moderates if he has any shot in hell. And he's just doubling down on his rhetoric. There's nothing new from him. So I'm saying to myself, I think we're still going to look back one day and look at the Nikki Haley factor and go, there it was. It was the early signs that, hey, people aren't buying what you're selling. He's still got his hardcore followers hanging on that aren't letting go. But a lot of reasonable people are just so sick and tired of this whole thing,
It's getting to the point where the election looks like it's going to really come down to who is sick and disgusted enough by Donald Trump and not just him, all the people around him, like Nikki Haley, who you thought maybe was going to take a stand, and even she crumbled, right? You have Mike Pence, who finally took a stand, but he's like, yeah, I'll probably vote for him. You have Mitch McConnell, who has said, Donald Trump, he stood on the floor and said Donald Trump is responsible for January 6th. And then months later, I'll vote for him.
Bill Barr.
Yeah.
Who actually said, I don't remember the exact quote, but I remember that being the second Trump term would be a horror show, I believe were the words. It's what he used. And then in the next couple of months, he's like, yeah, Trump's better than Biden. You're like, how?
Yeah.
And that's what confuses me is like, how is this still so close?
Yeah,
is it?
Comparison.
Is it though?
It really isn't.
I don't
That's
trust
a good
polls.
question.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know that I trust polls either, to be
I mean,
honest.
right, the red wave, there wasn't even a red like puddle. So like the polls are just really the people that actively want to tell you their opinion, because most people don't stop to do it or don't want to pick up the phone and think about who is getting polled. Typically much older voters who still pick up the landlines and are the most scared about things, because that's what the Republican Party does, is scare people. So are these polls accurate? Because they're not accurately reflecting the results of these elections. So
yeah, and I think something too that happens is the MAGA people, they sit and they look at those polls, they see Trump ahead, and they see him pulling crowds. They, like, back in 2020, one of their big things was Joe Biden didn't even get out there. He wasn't, and I'm like, well, he didn't get out there because he was in the middle of a global pandemic and he didn't want to draw a crowd. It's like, but they go by the crowd size and all that, and what they see in polls, media, and they think, oh, we're winning. I think that helps sow the seeds of them thinking it's rigged later when they lose and they say, how did this happen? Because everybody told us we was ahead.
It's fascinating. They just keep beating themselves in the head with their own fears and ignorance. It's all they have is they're trapped in this cycle, this alternate reality that reinforces their own fears. And no one ever tells them the truth. There is no one telling these people the truth. But that's not who I'm worried about, because the Trump base isn't growing. Nikki Haley isn't attracting voters to Trump. We know that. No one is attracting voters to Trump. Trump is scaring voters away. In what numbers, we don't know, but we still just don't know what's going to happen until Election Day, because I don't think we could trust any of the information we have right now.
Yeah, and so much can happen between now and then. Something can happen 2 days before the election and sometimes shift the whole tide. So you just never really know. I think it's one of the reasons why we just got to keep hanging in there and just keep driving our points home. Just keep speaking up and keep speaking louder, because the other side's loud. I think, like you said a minute ago, are they as popular? I don't think they are. I just think they're obnoxiously loud. A lot of times in these countries, the what ended up taking over was like a loud minority. It really.
Well, they always say they're the loud majority, right? I see those stickers. I swear, everyone says New York's a blue state. I am surrounded by MAGA out here on Long Island. And so many pickup trucks just have loud majority. You're the obnoxious minority. You just don't realize it.
Trump recently said in a speech, I actually have it for tomorrow, for Sunday's episode on our show, where Trump's like, yeah, we're quiet on the right. I'm like, are you insane? Like, you guys don't shut up.
That's the part that really blows my mind, is they will tell people, like, I saw a Fox News clip where they was like, now all Donald Trump has to do is just remain calm and cool and just let Joe rant and rave. And I'm like, are you serious? It's the opposite. I mean, Donald Trump is the master of ranting and raving,
I think there are a series of events, and like Mike and I always say it on our show, is we're not like, you got to take Trump at his word, because what he says is what he wants to do. But there are a lot more organized, more knowledgeable people in groups, because we talk about Project 2025 on our show all the time, that are behind all of this, well funded, like the Heritage Foundation, and a lot of this stuff you see, like the conservative justices that are in place, because this isn't the first time the Heritage Foundation tried to do this. They actually tried to do this the first Trump term. That was their plan. That's why everything is in place the way it is. All these conservative justices, they tried to stack, because part of the thing is to just completely dismantle the DOJ in their favor. So yeah, I think people need to pay attention to not just Trump, but the people that are behind Trump, not just the mouthpieces that are constantly talking and won't shut up, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Charlie Kirk. There are a lot of people behind the scenes that are very evil and have a lot of funds. Dark money. We did an episode on dark money on our show where we had an actual professor, a doctor, Dr. Morris Cunningham was his name, and we did a whole episode on dark money, because this trickled its way all the way down into our public school system. Because that's another thing they want to do. They want to privatize the public school system and completely get rid of the public school system altogether. So there's a lot going on that people really need to pay attention to, not just what's on the surface, not just the circus that's going on, because I think that's just ultimately just a distraction
Yeah.
See, that's what scares me is someone like Nikki Haley had in her hand the ability to almost put a stop to Trump. If she just recognized the power she had and really wanted to do something, the people were telling her, we're not going to vote for Trump. We're not going to leave you, and they're still voting for her, and she still bent the knee. She still decided that fealty to Trump is more important. So again, a Republican figure who I thought might have what it takes failed. Okay, I don't like Liz Cheney, but she didn't fail us. I don't like Adam Kinzinger, right? But he didn't fail us.
Exactly.
You know who did? Nikki Haley. She has an election base that she could steal from Trump, and she's not using it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Whatever.
Something too I'd like to point out is I really believe that, I talked about this in the video that I posted today, is that, Donald Trump, for example, he's not always been this pro-lifer. If you go back and look at Donald Trump, he's talking about being pro-choice forever. There's a Howard Stern interview where he's talking about how he got duped by one of his, I guess one of his children's mother was like, told him she was on birth control and then ended up getting pregnant. And he's talking about it like, hey, what are we going to do about this? I really believe that he is so thirsty for power that he will do whatever they ask of him. You know what I'm saying? And so
he has no scruples.
Yeah. So like you said about, you got to worry about what's coming next. I mean, one day Donald Trump will be out of the political theater, but I think we're still going to have this radical agenda that's going to be on the table. And if it fell into the hands, I've always felt like if it fell into the hands of someone smarter, I mean, he's a good grifter. He's a good grifter. Don't get me wrong. He's someone.
He's an excellent snake oil salesman.
Yeah, they say
he's excellent in the sense that he had a great ability to make people think he was a good one. Because when it comes down to it, he doesn't have the magic anymore. And maybe he's losing it. Maybe he's losing his mind. I don't know. But I got to tell you, a good salesman knows how to keep a crowd, right? But they got to tweak it. They got to react to the crowd. He's saying the same things over and over again. People aren't buying what he's selling. So he's losing voters far more than he's gaining any of them. But it's not him. He was the puppet that they thought they had that could manipulate the country enough to get in the Christian fascism, the Christian nationalism, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he failed at it because he isn't smart enough and he's too selfish. He didn't have any loyalty. He's not going to have loyalty to their cause. He only has loyalty to himself. And that's ultimately why the Trump experiment by them will fail. But it opened the door enough where we're seeing the takeover in our schools and our local communities. And again, I look at someone like Nikki Haley who had the power to do something about it and didn't. So Trump is not going to pick Nikki Haley because she is not as loyal as someone who never spoke out against him. He's going to pick an Elise Stefanik. That's what's going to happen. Nikki Haley just wasted everyone's time.
I agree. And someone in the comment section says Trump only cares about Trump. That's dead on. I mean, he's just in it for himself. And like you said, he's this the great snake oil salesman. But when this is all over, and someone made a great point the other day. I was talking to a friend, and they was like, we're already seeing Project 2025 in places like Tennessee. I mean, here we're already seeing fascism on the rise, and so it's just going to continue to grow. And we have, that's why I said we just have to keep driving our points home and let people know, you can disagree with Joe Biden all day long. We're not in a cult, so we're going to disagree with it, But it's like. It's like, when you look at what's on the line or democracy in November, I'm worried about it because I really want people to I don't know if I think people are so caught up in the game of like owning the libs that not really paying attention to what's actually happening, and it'll have to end up affecting them before they're going to.
These are people that are willing to spite themselves for some vague concept of victory. What are you doing? These are the people that are now suddenly literally walking around wearing diapers. Who are you owning? You're not owning.
I know. Come on.
I in no way feel owned by you.
No, not by carrying around flags that say real men wear diapers. You guys can have that. If that's your idea of owning the libs, then keep on owning the libs.
I support your right to
please, because we need the content anyway. So by all means.
Yeah. My mom used to always say to me, she would say, I'm embarrassed for him. She would say that when I was growing up. Someone would do something, and my mom, I'm embarrassed for him. And that's how
we call it secondhand embarrassment.
It really is. And speaking of secondhand embarrassment, Trump has also came up with this ridiculous claim that so many of MAGA has latched onto, and that is that when the FBI raided his home at Mar-a-Lago, it's in there that the FBI can use deadly force if necessary. And that's any raid.
Every raid.
That's every raid that's ever been done. If you've ever watched a TV show or a movie, that's a possibility.
Right.
But they capitalize on this fake outrage. They grab onto something and go, look what they're doing. And now he's out there talking about how they were trying to take him out, and they were trying to take out Aaron and Melania, and just playing the victim. It's like they truly have become the party of victimhood now.
Oh yeah.
And they just come up with all this fake outrage, and that one really got me when I saw that. That's every raid that's ever happened.
Yeah,
I think I posted it on our Instagram page that Donald Trump put out a fundraiser. I have the fundraiser email. Biden's trying to kill me. It's the funniest shit ever. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's on whatever freaking channel she could possibly go on. Like, they're trying to kill Trump.
Yeah.
I swear to God, like, she thinks Biden's in the bushes right now, ready to just take him out.
It's
so stupid, though.
Or what I do understand is how easily it is for the Republican Party to just manipulate people, because we have here a straight up lie and a straight up example of ignorance. The ignorance is they're not telling their base that the language, like you said, is how every raid is written. That's the point. You don't raid like little grandmas who are making bootleg knitting little boots or something like that. Okay. You're expecting to see criminals who don't want to spend the rest of their lives in prison. They probably might shoot you. Okay. So there's that ignorance, but then there's the lie. And the biggest point that I'd like to make is that Donald Trump wasn't at Mar-a-Lago when the raid happened.
Right. And
so they weren't going to try and kill him because they specifically waited, and this is known. They didn't want him there because they didn't want, and this is the scary part, they didn't want the unknown factor of the Secret Service being there when the FBI raided them.
Yeah.
That makes you wonder.
Now they want to impeach Merrick Garland and arrest him. And if I'm not mistaken, when they when they searched Biden's for looking, there was that same language. In Biden's search warrant when they went looking for stuff of his. I mean, it's in all of them. Like, you ever heard any? You ever watch Cops when they break a door down to execute a search warrant? They're like,
that's
not gonna use any guns. Don't worry.
But you're making a great point, Jeremy, because this is another example of lack of understanding and hiding the truth from the MAGA base. The two warrants, other than specific, language unique to the location and the case, the Biden raid and the Mar-a-Lago raid were just executions of warrants that were probably almost identical. And what the MAGA people don't understand, because they're being sold a bill of goods, is that this has to do with the fact that Joe Biden gave the documents that he didn't realize he had. Even if he did steal them, when he got caught, he gave them back. All right. I'm not saying he did steal them. I'm just saying at least he had the sense to go, you got me. Here you go. Donald Trump was like, I got nothing. I got nothing.
Right? Yeah.
And then lied like 10 times. And then they still found more documents in his bedroom.
Yeah.
That's the crime. They don't understand what the crime is.
Oh, did you see MAGA inadvertently proved that Melania and Trump don't even sleep in the same room? Because right-wing influencer Benny Johnson is like, look, they busted into Melania's bedroom. And I was like, Melania's bedroom? With a question mark. Like, you guys just ratted yourselves out that Trump and they're not this, the loving family and yada, yada, yada.
Their brains, they live in such a fog of cognitive dissonance. It has to be studied, because this is like widespread. This is a result of technology that has never been used the way it has before, where just the whole internet culture has been able to, these people have been able to be manipulated, right? QAnon is literally that. It's just a bunch of internet misdirection and misinformation. We're talking about people who are like, I don't believe my kid who's a physicist, but I believe my Aunt Susan's neighbor because on Facebook their cousin posted it. We're not with people who even have the capacity for basic reason anymore, or if ever. So that's why the base isn't growing, because if we keep putting out the knowledge, that's what will protect us. It's why they want to get rid of TikTok. It's why they want to get young people to lose the right to vote. They want to control the knowledge so that they can keep up the rhetoric. That's
Exactly.
what I'm afraid of.
Oh, you're right. I think you're spot on. Because
Yeah.
it's gotten so far out of hand now. Like, I mean, anytime you get pulled over by the police, I mean, if you get pulled over by the police, they have the right to use that force if necessary. But they'll capitalize on some little headline like that and throw it out there. And then you just get all this fake outrage and all these people, you know, that whatever we're saying about Donald Trump, they're saying the same thing in reverse about us and Joe Biden. They're saying that we're weaponizing everyone against them when really they're just being held accountable for him. I mean, it's like he's being held accountable.
He's posting videos, QAnon videos, and I believe QAnon was labeled a domestic terrorist organization threat since like 2018. Posting that video about where the unified right showed up in the video.
Yeah.
Like, how much more?
Well,
how much more proof do you need?
He just keeps doubling down on that kind of rhetoric, and it's so mind-boggling to me, man. Because I remember a time when I used to have arguments with friends who were Republicans. We would argue politics, go back and forth all day long, and you know, they would warn me about, hey, you know, you got to be careful about, you know, you got to be careful about free lunches in school that could lead to social.
Yeah.
You got to be careful.
You're right.
You got to be careful about giving people health care. That'll lead to socialism. That'll lead to a dictator.
Yep.
Any idea we ever had on fixing a problem, they told us it would lead to a dictator. And now they're sitting back watching him pull directly from the Fuhrer. He's pulling straight from it. And they're watching, and you point out to him, and they're like, oh, man, you're just getting people worked up. It's just hyperbole. And I'm like, no.
It's right here.
That's the Second Amendment argument that they use all the time, right? We have the right to make sure that a dictator won't take our rights.
Yeah.
You're handing him your
rights. Handing them over. They're literally handing them over.
And what's worse is not just that you're handing him, it's like you have pre-advanced Stockholm syndrome, because you're also turning around and saying, I'm going to use my guns to protect that guy that's stealing all the other rights except my right to shoot you. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's what's happening.
Like, we can prove that Donald Trump. Oh, you know what? Actually, Mike, before you, this is actually probably a good time to bring it up. Like, me and Mike just going through this video today, and I didn't think anything of it because he was just talking nonsense.
Yeah.
Mike, this is after the whole unified right video came out. He posted, or he was doing a speech where he was talking about, he's trying to prove that he's smart. So the story he tells is that he's smart because he had an uncle he used to be a professor at MIT. So because he has a family member that's smart, that makes him smart, which is stupid. But that, of course, like, that's what Donald Trump would say. But then he said that he believes in the racehorse theory, and I didn't think anything of it. And I'm so glad Mike pointed this out, because we're going to focus in on this. Yeah. He's talking about eugenics.
Yeah.
He's talking about breeding. Like, who else wanted to breed a master race or a better racehorse?
Well,
you understand what I'm saying? Like, he actually said this.
Yeah.
It gets even scarier, and we'll go into it, you know, but just a hint of it is that it's not so much also just the belief that the genetics passes on the good stuff, that we're geniuses. My grandfather was a genius, so I have the potential to, or I am a genius. It's also, what are the other people meant for that don't have the same genetics as me? It's the justification for enslavement. And when you look at, and it's also the justification for genocide, when you look at the language of poisoning the blood, and right, all the Republicans are using this rhetoric now, the blood being poisoned, where these people are coming in from, and they name African countries and Middle Eastern countries. They don't name European countries, you know. So it's a bigger white supremacist movement. And again, that's what I'm afraid of. Trump is and has always been a tool for a larger movement of fascism in this country. And we're at the point where they can't turn back, because they thought he was their success, that this was the final push. And now that they lost it, they can't go back in the bottle, because they became so proud of what they are. You look at Moms for Liberty, you look at the Proud Boys. These people are proud of their hatred. And you have Republican elected officials, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Tommy Tuberville, people that will excuse this hate, excuse this racism, excuse this rhetoric.
Yeah.
And then blame the left for doing the same thing, but to the white people. Like, it's just insanity. And our politics doesn't have any reason in it anymore.
It truly is. I wanted to take a minute here, guys, and let everyone know, if you're just tuning in now, I'm joined by Mike and Jeremy from the Voice of Reason podcast. I have their link in the description on YouTube to go over and subscribe to their channel. Be sure to do so. And I want to take a minute here and say thanks to Sally, to Jeff, and to Stoneflower. Each one of them gifted 5 memberships. So for you all out there getting a membership on Tennessee Brando, welcome to the memberships. And thank you guys so much for gifting those. It's been a great time. We still got a ways to go, but we're about, we're almost halfway there. And I just wanted to stop and let everyone know what we're doing for those of you that are just tuning in. We're sitting here. I was on these guys' podcasts a few months back, and now here we are, and we're having a great time, great conversation. And I want to thank you guys once again for joining us.
No, more than happy. Thank you for having us.
Right. I was like, I'll be honest. I was like a kid at Christmas today.
Yeah.
I was all giddy. I was texting Mike.
I'm
like, I can't wait, man. Let's go.
That's awesome.
No, thank you though for having us, man.
I've been excited to have you guys. It was a great time on your show, and we just, it's always good to get with like-minded people who have like-minded people, but that have a different way of looking at it. And that's what we try to do here on the channel. So we've been, I'm sure you guys have been following the whole trial, and a lot of people, are now to the point of like, okay, where do you think it's going? What do you see the verdict? Do you guys can you see him being found guilty? I mean, how do you feel?
Who'd want to take it first? Me or you?
All right. I think I don't even know anymore, to be honest with you. Like, I based on all the evidence, because we follow it extremely close. Based on all the evidence and their last witness being an absolute disaster, Trump's last witness, they should. I think the verdict should absolutely be guilty. My worry is if he gets acquitted, if there's a hung jury, or if they because there are certain events that I think could take place that would give Trump enough of a boost to be a threat in November. And one of that would be, because this is the only trial that's going to happen before the election, thanks to certain people, Republican mostly, and some judges. If he gets acquitted, because they have these stations now like Fox News, and they have their entire networks dedicated to amplifying this stuff. So I hope he's guilty. I think he's guilty, but
I think he is going to be found guilty. I think they did a pretty good job with the jury selection. We had an episode where we went over a lot of the questions on the jury questionnaire. Right. And it's just interesting to see where their mind was, because people forget how much work goes into the jury selection on both sides. So it's important to remember that they both agreed on the jury that Donald Trump got. And if you listen to the reporting that's going on, the jury is not happy with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is acting like Donald Trump. He always will. He can't act any other way than be a monstrous loose cannon that shows his disdain for everyone that isn't him.
Yeah.
The witnesses that were there on his behalf treated the court like a joke. They had to be reprimanded. At one point, Judge Mershon had to kick out everyone in the court so he could yell at one of the witnesses to stop being a jackass. I mean, literally. Okay, we had Eric Trump, the dumb one, as we call him, in court on his phone, which is not allowed, texting about the witness while the witness was testifying. Yeah. Now, we can go into the fact that at some point, Donald Trump should have seen a jail cell for contempt. We're not going to see that at this point. We're probably not going to see him in jail, even with a guilty verdict, because something's going to happen with the Secret Service saying, well, we don't know how to do this, and blah, blah, blah. So forget him seeing jail right now. He's going to be found guilty. And there are a lot of voters that have said, if he is found guilty, we will not vote for him. As much as I don't understand it, and I think all three of us don't understand it, there are still people called undecided voters.
Yeah.
Right.
None of us can really rationalize how at this point anyone can be undecided, but they exist. And if Donald Trump is found guilty, no matter how much time he does or doesn't spend in a jail cell, that guilty verdict will take more votes away from him. And I know I like to win the democracy game through democracy, and that's how you win it, by votes. So that's how I'm looking at it. Everything that happens is affecting November. That's what we got to keep our mind on.
Exactly.
Right.
That's a great point.
And actually, Biden on Twitter, I think they're already, or I've read an article, they're already going to lean in heavy once he gets convicted. Because I think Mike's right. Ultimately, he'll get convicted and not see jail. So that I mean, it's going to hang over him like a dark cloud, and it's going to follow him everywhere.
Yeah, they have to lean into it. That's something that Joe Biden has to do, is he has to lean in and just really point out who Donald Trump is and what he is. and just keep pointing it out, because again, I think, one thing that the whole Joe Biden impeachment thing, that was simply put there in place to try to create this illusion to those moderate and undecided voters that both sides are bad. That's really what they were going for with that. They knew they had nothing, but it was this idea that, okay, if we let them think both sides are bad, then they may go for it. But I will never understand, and no disrespect out there to anyone who's independent or nothing like that, but it's just, I'll never understand at this point in the game, with everything we've seen, how you could be undecided. But there still are a whole lot of them out there, and he needs to, if Trump's going to pull it off, he's got to appeal to him, and he's not trying at all.
Yeah, I mean, all they proved through all the year and a half of investigations and trying to impeach Joe Biden is that he's a good father. He loves his family. Yeah. And then he's pretty squeaky clean. I mean, him and his son have been investigated relentlessly. And then the Her report, which was another nightmare that we had to endure. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. I just can't see why there's still anybody undecided either.
I can't understand why more people aren't turned off by his temperament. You know what I mean? Even if Joe Biden had that kind of temperament, if every time Joe Biden started, he started off, dipshit Donnie, like if he, you know what I mean? I mean, it's entertaining if you're watching pro wrestling. You know what I mean? It's fine to watch a heel cut a promo, but it's like these are politicians that are making decisions with our lives. They're politicians that comes up with legislation that can take away rights from people. And I don't want to see that type of rhetoric. So my thought is, it's like he's such a spoiled, pampered brat, just up there with the microphone, and gets in the courtroom and just completely muddies the water. That's all he's there for.
That's all he can do.
That's all he can do. That's all he has. And it just seems to me like that any reasonable person would look over that and go, you know what? We need a new front man for this shitty band. That's
my point. Many chances.
That's my point for Nikki Haley. She could have scooped up the Republican Party as a woman of color from Asian descent. She could have said in the next cycle, hey, Republican Party, do you want to beat the Democrats at their own game?
Yeah.
But she didn't.
No.
And the other point I want to make, I forgot which one of you said about the last witness that was there for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Well, the last witness should have been Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember at the beginning and before every single trial, every single case that he's ever been involved in that we've watched as a country, he has said, I will testify. He has also said anyone who doesn't testify has a lot to hide. Well, guess what? He didn't testify, and he's trying to set up that the gag order prevents him from testifying. That's literally not how the law works. A gag order is there for you not to speak outside of court. When you are in court, that is okay. That's literally how it works, Bubba. So he's trying to set up this whole thing like he wasn't allowed to speak and all of that. And in reality, he had his chance to speak. It's called testifying on your own behalf. And I guarantee you his lawyers did everything they could to convince him not to testify.
Yeah, because can you imagine what a total disaster that would have been? I mean, you talk about a guy blowing it. I mean, I don't think there's a way he could get up there and take questions without just going off on his tirade, because every day outside the courtroom, it's like a broken record. He says the same thing over and over. And I don't know if you guys have had this problem, but whenever I'm finding clips to react to talk about, you'll find a clip and he's going, it's a crooked judge. He's a conflicted judge. This is a Biden trial. This is a witch hunt. It's a hoax. And you're looking at it and you'll go, oh, wait a minute. This clip was from 3 days ago. Let me find the new one. Let me find the most up-to-date one. And then it's the same words in the same order. And it's like
scary. And the fact that I would like to think that even his supporters are like, yeah, this is great. But we're even seeing in his rallies, even the ones that are the size is overestimated. Mm-hmm. People are walking out mid-speech. The guy rambles for 2 hours as if he's a rock star. If you're going to act like a rock star, you better be able to pull it off. But he gets up there and rambles and pauses and drools and falls off podiums. Yeah, and his own people don't even want to look at him anymore.
And speaking of rock stars, he's out here saying that he can draw a bigger crowd than Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen. Did you guys see that?
I know, right? It's just so embarrassing.
They show a shot I did a video where I showed a shot of the MetLife Arena when Taylor Swift had like 72,000 people in there. And then you take a look at his crowd from the same aerial kind of view, and they probably could have fit him on the field, at there. So it's just, and they were, like you said, they were walking in the middle of it.
I made a video for his New Jersey rally. Remember, Mike, we played it on our show because they were like ranting about how big the crowd was at the start of the show, but they never reported how many people were at the end of the rally. So I made a video and just cut in. That sounds like, but also there was nobody left.
The image that they were showing, that they were touting as the biggest crowd there were in Wildwood, New Jersey, was from like the 90s, and it was a Bon Jovi. What concert was it? I don't remember, but it was like not in this country and from like 20 years ago. Rod Stewart concert. Yeah. And then today was the Bronx rally, which he said, and reports said 30,000 people. Well, the permit for the park was for 3,500, so you couldn't have more than that. And the aerial footage, I don't even know if they got 3,500 people there. So the guy's so obsessed with crowd size, and it's just this gross manliness that he thinks makes him impressive. I have the biggest this. I'm the best that. Look at me. Mm-hmm. You're an embarrassment, a joke, and a criminal, and everyone is starting to see it. And you're letting it happen more and more by opening your mouth. That's why he didn't testify. They convinced him somehow that if he testified, he was going to be found guilty 100%.
Yeah. Brando, do you honestly, let me ask you a question. I'm sorry. Do you honestly think he's going to debate?
I was just fixing to ask you the same thing.
Already making excuses, man.
I have been calling it from the start, and so has Midas Touch Network. We've just all been saying we don't think he's going to do it. He's already making excuses as to why. He's not going to. He's going to demand that Biden take a drug test. I think he'll weasel his way out of it. I think he started this whole thing early because debate. I don't think, I may be wrong about this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the earliest that the debates happen. They usually don't happen till September or October.
No, you want them so they're fresh and in the conscious. Yeah,
but they're even talking about things like wanting to debate once a month and stuff. And I'm like, no, I can't see him showing up. I really believe he wouldn't even debate his own side. So
I'm interested in that. Obviously, nothing Trump does ever matters, but he did agree to the terms, right? So it was pretty obvious once he agreed to the terms that he was never going to debate, because one of the terms is the microphone gets shut off in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So at the very least, Joe Biden is capable of counting to 30 and stopping talking. Donald Trump is not capable of having a coherent thought. So he can't even manage his own time. And I'm not even joking about that. The guy is a rambling lunatic. Yeah. So it might be worse for him if there was no time limit, because then people would really get to see his cognitive dysfunction. Is he going to show up? I don't know. I hope so, because it'll be a shit show to end all shit shows, but I don't know.
Honestly, if I was Joe Biden, I would let him rant for the whole entire thing, and at the end go, this guy's an idiot. just walk off the stage.
You should be like, I cede my time to my opponent.
I don't have time for this. This guy's a moron. Let me get out of here.
I read that in the interview back in or the debate, back in 2020 that Chris Wallace hosted, he interrupted Joe Biden 145 times in 90 minutes. And I'm like, I remember sitting there, and I've watched every presidential debate since, going back, hell, I watched them when I was a kid. I can't remember the first one I ever watched, but I've never seen one that just came off like, I think people, going back to those undecided voters, I think a lot of those people are going to see him. If he does show up, I think a lot of people are going to see him, and they're going to be reminded of his temperament.
Yep.
Because a lot of the MAGA folks obviously are watching every movie he makes, and people like us are watching him because we're taking the threat seriously. But to the ones that are kind of tuned out and not really paying that much attention, that's going to tune back in for that debate, they're going to be reminded of 2020. They're going to be reminded of that temperament. It's going to come right back at them. I don't think it's going to do him any favors at all.
I think it backfired in his face too, because he kept talking all that trash, like anytime, any place, anywhere.
Yeah.
Joe Biden was like, okay. and then his team freaked out, and now he's making responses like, well, Joe Biden has to have a drug test now. You know what I mean? Like, hey, okay. I would laugh if Joe Biden would be like, all right, I'll take one if you take one.
Exactly.
Like,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah,
he
Oh,
would
man,
burn
that
up
would
that
backfire
cup.
in his
He would
face.
piss a hole through the cup.
He really would. But
But
he's like, I don't want him to be all hopped up like he was at the State of the Union.
Yeah.
Did you see him? He was all jacked up. And then at the end of the
That was-
speech, he was like, like
Yeah, that
it's
was
so
so-
funny.
that was so funny to me because watching that speech, I was sitting there going, dang, Biden's bringing it. He really is. And I'm sitting there watching it. And I remember thinking, well, where's Sleepy Joe? Like, where's he at? And then at
That
the
was
end
a
of
good
it,
one.
at the end of it, their response is, oh, he was jacked up. It's like they've always got an out, and they'll always just jump through whatever hoop he puts in front of them in this mental gymnastics game. It's crazy.
You brought up again, because now I'm starting to think about the undecided voters. It's like fascinating. But we could look to a time when a debate directly impacted undecided voters, and that was John McCain, Barack Obama.
Mhm.
And I distinctly remember that John McCain, and I do not mean any disrespect to him or anyone who is elderly, was shuffling around in the back of the frame like he had lost his kitten. Like the guy just shuffled. And after that debate, it was like, that was it. He cannot win. He came off as a muttering old fool. So to your point, there are people, again, who are undecided, and to see Trump in his element, which is being a raging, disgusting bully, that's another segment of people he would turn off.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know if you guys remember back when Barack Obama debated Mitt Romney. I'm pretty sure it was the first debate they had. Obama just sort of stood there and let Mitt Romney talk. He was just sort of, and everybody's like, "Oh, Obama lost this debate. He lost. He just stood there. He seemed like he was asleep." And I remember saying to myself, I was like, "He has just rope-a-doped Mitt Romney."
Yes, that's the term.
He is because and then the next debate he comes out, he's sharp, he's crisp. He's like, "Hey, last time Mitt Romney said this, last time Mitt Romney said that," and then it comes around time for the third debate, and he just swings a home run. Joe Biden could take that same style, like you said earlier when you said just let him talk, just step back, let him have the diarrhea of the mouth, and go at it, and then you can come back and pick him apart, and the other one goes back up. But I don't think
even worse is you're dealing with someone who is mentally challenged in some way that is a legitimate medical problem. The guy is incapable of controlling himself from rage, from whatever it is inside of him, from his arrogance. It doesn't matter. All Biden would have to do is flick him, just flick him a little bit, and Trump would go off on a tirade. And then when he finally pauses, Biden just flicks him again. So you'd be able to not even just let the guy talk himself into future issues. You'd let him literally ruin himself because he would go worse and worse and worse.
My opinion on undecided voters is they're just not paying attention to what's going on.
I agree.
If you are paying even the remotest amount of attention to what's going on, there should be, obviously, you have fascism or democracy. Take your pick. For some reason,
I agree.
Yeah, people are going to wait till the debates.
People don't want to admit that that's real, and I think the apathy involved in where we've gotten to, where we're so used to being told America works, don't worry about it, that the people that still do want democracy are trusting it a little too much to just work itself out. I think people forget that a democracy is an active form of governance. You have to get out and choose your elected officials. So I think we just have to get people to remember that. You can't, whatever's left of his base is going to vote. Whatever independent people are going to figure it out the day before, they're going to do, I don't know. But those of us who know what we have to do, just go vote. Just don't assume your neighbor's going to vote. Don't assume your cousin's going to vote. Go vote.
And one thing I hear people say around here, they'll say, well, man, my vote don't matter. Tennessee's red. That's going to go for Trump anyway. I'm like, well, but that type of mentality is never going to get us anywhere. Tennessee's going to go for Trump. I'm sure of it, but I'm going to make sure I'm out there voting because I can't be quiet. I can't sit back and I can't sit. And I don't think anyone should be setting this one out. If you set this one out or vote third party, you've just threw it away to me. Mm-hmm. But one thing I definitely wanted to talk about before we start, we'll take some questions from the audience here at the end. But one segment I definitely wanted to talk about was another great story this week, the sparring match between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jasmine Crockett that just absolutely broke the internet. And so, was you guys watching that in real time, or was you like me? I caught the clips after the fact.
Yeah, I caught the clips.
I always catch the clips after the fact.
Me too. Yeah.
It's
But
very typical of what the Republicans
Legendary.
do. They are the party of gaslighting and racism and bully mentality. They tempt you, and when you fight back, they claim victim. Marjorie Taylor Greene was crying her white woman tears all over the place. And in real time, we actually have the video in real time without cuts. There's not like long pauses that they truncated it for the news. No, we could see Marjorie Taylor Greene gaslighting and saying racist things. And the moment Jasmine Crockett fights back, everyone in there is like, whoa, 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 lady, you shouldn't get so angry. Calm down.
You know, I'm glad Jasmine Crockett did what she did, because she's, I mean, if you look at her resume, just look at her Wikipedia profile. I mean, she's got a hell of a resume. And then have to sit there and take that bigoted, loudmouth trailer trash stuff from a person like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Honestly, I'm surprised they were able to. I think the Democrats have held themselves together very well for a very long time, and I think now they realize that it's time to just fight back, and she did.
Yeah,
like you said, it broke the internet.
Yeah, I think you got to take the gloves off at this point. You can't, if Jasmine Crockett had just sat there and took that one on the chin, then they would have painted her as a wimp. They'd have said she didn't have the courage to stand up for herself. So they've got you either way. They're going to find a way, like we talked about. They're going to find a way to spin it in their favor. They're either going to bait you into saying something back and then cry victim, or if you don't say something back, then you're soft, you're a snowflake. If she'd have took the approach of, how dare you say that to me, kind of a thing, then it would have been, she's a snowflake, she's too sensitive.
Yes.
But
it's funny.
Yeah.
She Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to use that on AOC when AOC was like, we literally have rules here. You are not allowed to attack a person's appearance. And Marjorie Taylor Greene was like, oh, you hurt your feelings.
Yeah. And it's so much. I've said for so long that Marjorie Taylor Greene is like the pro wrestling heel that just shows up, dressed in her garb. Like when she shows up to State of the Union address, dressed in her MAGA hat or red. She's there to create a ruckus. She's there to stir that water. Yeah, and to muddy that water to where we're talking. Yes, she really is. No joke. And I really think she believes what she's saying. And that's even more scary.
I wrote down. Do you mind? I wrote down 5 things that I could think of off the top of my head recently that Marjorie Taylor Greene has done. Okay, 1, she suggested using space lasers at the border. I swear to God, she's put it on Twitter. She had a hearing on black market. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to laugh when I say this, but it's so insane. She actually had a hearing. We have the video on it as well on black market baby organ sales. She thinks that's a thing too. She thinks lights go off after dark if you use wind and solar power. She doesn't understand how batteries work. She thinks COVID vaccines cause something called turbo cancer.
Good Lord.
And of course, the infamous, she thinks all Democrats are pedophiles for supporting trans rights.
That's,
like, she's absolutely batshit crazy.
I don't know if you got it in front of you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you was telling me how that you had a transcript from a Trump speech. Do you have that in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, which one do you want?
Any of them will work.
Okay, I'm gonna read this. This is my
favorite. Here's the point, folks, for the audience. I want you guys to catch this: is that if you actually take Donald Trump's speeches and just read the transcript without, it is so. Go ahead. Just
it's like the Renaissance painting of poetry.
We should do a segment called Poems by Donald Trump.
We're gonna do that.
Read his speeches. All right, this is called Gettysburg. Wow, by Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
All right. This is an actual word for word speech. Okay, he said this when he was in Pennsylvania recently. Our union was saved by the immortal heroes at Gettysburg. Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle! That was the Battle of Gettysburg. What an unbelievable! I mean, it was so much, and so interesting, and so vicious, and horrible, and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Gettysburg. Wow. It's not even a good word. It gets worse. I go to Gettysburg to look and to watch. and the statement of Robert E. Lee, who's no longer in favor. Did you ever notice that? No longer in favor? Never fight uphill, me boys. Never fight uphill. They were fighting uphill.
That is great.
That's real. That's
That's
actually
a real speech.
his words.
That's his words. And I can't imagine when they say, I like him because he speaks his mind. I like him because he's plain
He
spoken.
does.
He speaks his mind, but what the hell was that?
It was nothing. It was complete gibberish.
That is not a well-formed mind.
No, not at all.
Never fight uphill, me boys.
That was my
Like-
favorite part. Yeah.
This is a guy, by the way, who, support the troops, all that, blah, 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 didn't want to go to visit the troops' graves in Normandy because it was raining. Has notoriously said that people who fight in the military are losers because they're giving their life away for nothing.
Yeah.
It's, again, what Donald Trump does best is tell you who he is. And the people that love him for it are, I hate to say it, probably as garbage as him. And the rest of us that saw it from the beginning, great. Those of us that needed a little time but saw it, great. Those of us that are still trying to decide, please figure it out. But he always shows us who he is. His speeches aren't speeches. They're stream of conscious, insane little ramblings. I mean, that's not language. That wasn't a thought.
Yeah.
He, in a way, he does it like he'll tip his fascist toe in the water. Like, you know what I mean? Like he'll say something like almost like a Hitler quote, and then see how people react. And when people don't react as badly as they think we thought they would, then he'll do it worse. And now, like the Unified Right thing is online. Yeah, he deleted it, but that was intentional. He wanted to see how people would react so he could take the next step in whatever fascist movement he's planning.
Yeah, I feel like every time he does that, he's testing the water to see what they will accept. And so far, they'll accept anything he says. But folks, we got a few more minutes to go. And once again, I've been joined by Mike and Jeremy from the Voice of Reason podcast. I've got their link in the YouTube description. So be sure to go on over to their channel and hit that subscribe button. It's always great having you guys. And here for the last 10 minutes, we'll just sit around and kind of shoot the breeze. And if anyone out there has a question for Mike, Jeremy, or me, you want to drop your question in the comments, let me know and we'll do it. But guys, man, I really thank you again so much for being here. It's always a great time.
We appreciate it. We really do. We always have fun. We had so much fun with you when you were on with us that we just kind of like knew our personalities would always make for a good conversation. Because like, you said it earlier, we probably all agree on 95% of everything, but that 5% we don't agree on, we have enough respect for using our brains and acting civilized that that 5% we'll figure it out somehow. And it used to be that the Democrats and Republicans, look, well, there are always insidious factors on both sides. There's always people that are trying to do horrible stuff. But when it came down to it, it was more like, who's going to pay for this? Who's going to pay for that? We've gotten to a point where it's literally, who should we round up? Who should we not give weapons to? Who should we give? And everyone just hating each other. I'd rather just get back to the point of, can we please have a high-speed rail and who's going to pay for all the schools?
I actually accidentally pulled that one up, but wait, now I'm off. Okay. Somebody wanted to know, was I a rocker before? Yes, I did play music in a band for about 25 years, but this was the one I was going for. And I want to know if you guys had any insight on this one, because I just caught it the other day. What's going on in the state of Ohio with the government banning Joe Biden from the ballot?
I don't know enough about it. I just keep hearing that like he is not currently slated to be on the ballot, but I don't know.
And it's crazy too. It's really crazy that that's even a thing.
That's still them trying to do to the left what should be done to the right. Right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump shouldn't be on the ballot in states because he literally exhibited all of the traits to not be allowed on the ballot. The guy acted like a traitor. But no,
this is a good question here that I get quite a bit. This is from Kim. She wants to know, what are y'all's thoughts on how Dems can improve their messaging? It's a great question.
They need to be out there in everybody's faces as much, not as, in the proper way, but they need to be like, Jasmine Crockett just did, going on offense. And there's other people that are too, because I think, what's his name? I'm going to forget his name now in the moment.
Hakeem Jeffries?
Jared Moskowitz just completely destroyed the Republicans in the House recently. Was it today or yesterday? Going over at Chief, he's like, I have to disagree with you, Miss Crockett. He's like, they've got a lot of firsts, and he just rattled off. So yeah, they just need to go on offense more. And and they have the truth on their side, so they need to use that to their advantage.
Yeah,
Facts and truth.
this is another great question here from Sasha. She wants to know, what do you think will happen if Trump loses or wins this? What do you think will happen either way?
Wow. I mean, the election, I assume, is what we're talking about. If he loses the election, Donald Trump will disappear. I mean, he won't disappear from the news because he's Donald Trump, and we'll all see all the trials that'll eventually happen. And you know what? We'll just watch the slow train wreck that is the rest of Donald Trump's life. That's what happens if he loses.
Yeah.
If he wins, you won't see any of us ever again because we won't be allowed to do this. We won't be allowed to speak our minds on any social media. They will kill all social media, and women will have no rights. That's what we'll be living in.
I feel the same way. One thing that I'm concerned about is I feel like that he's already taken the gloves off, obviously, but I kind of feel like when it comes down to it and he loses, then he's going to have nothing to lose. And what he can do next, I think it's going to be
chaos. And we tell people on our show that there's probably going to be violence between now and then and even after, but he's the head of the snake. They don't have any backup plan to Donald Trump.
Nope.
Yeah.
So when he goes, MAGA is going to descend into just chaos. They're not going to have their furor, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a crazy time to be alive. It truly is. I mean, I never would have thought that we would be here. I really didn't, because we've always been in every election we disagree, and every election gets heated, and every election has its moments. But when they're over, one side wins, one side concedes, and we just keep moving. We may keep arguing, but this is one of those times where every Republican that I've seen that gets asked the question, will you accept the election results? They duck and dodge that question. They won't answer it. They're already telling us, just like Trump did back in 2020. He started saying the only way I lose this is if it's rigged. He started throwing those seeds back then. And so, yeah, I think that's just going to keep, are we, I don't know if this is a question. Are we ever going to have an election again where someone just concedes from the Republican side, or is it going to be this every time?
I think we will. I don't know when that's going to be, and I don't know what it's going to look like, because you're right. I don't think you can't put the genie back in there. Once Pandora's box is open, there's always going to be one gremlin hiding somewhere. So the politics as we thought we knew it is gone. I think we're at a point, we're at a huge moment where we have to shape a new politics, and either it's going to be leaning towards accepting fascism, or it's going to be, no, we have to rebuild democracy and put in checks and balances so that we never have this again.
Exactly.
The reason I worry about this is really why I worry, because we did a whole episode back when we first started our podcast 6-7 months ago on Project 2025, and they even say in their manifesto, which I still don't understand how that's not a written form of treason. It's literally a roadmap on how to overthrow democracy. They even state in there that this is their last chance.
Yeah.
Because they've tried it before. Like I said, they tried it during the first Trump term. They thought he was going to get reelected, and then he was really going to take the guardrails off. That was the plan. But unfortunately, he lost the election. So this is they said this is their last shot. So they're pulling off. They're going to try. The more desperate they get, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah. This is a question here I wanted to take, because I've thought a lot about this. How do we clean up the Supreme Court? See, this is one of those things I've had so many conversations with folks about, because, Donald Trump will win or lose in November. He's always going to be remembered as the guy that overturned Roe versus Wade. Yep. And that happened because he was able to appoint the Supreme Court justices. He's already vowing to do it even further to the right. What shot will any of us have if that happens? So how do we clean it up?
I think the one way to help fix it, I don't know how you completely clean it up until you get rid of those bad actors, the ones that are taking gifts, the one whose spouses might have played a role in January 6th. Until you get rid of those people from the SCOTUS, you don't fix it. But I think what you do is you start by expanding the court. People don't like that term because they don't understand it. The court has been changed in number many times over its history. And the real purpose of the number on the court is to have one justice be the head of the circuit court. So there are 9 justices now, because at some point there were only 9 circuit courts. Well, there's 13 now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's also why the courts take so long, because there just aren't enough judges and there isn't enough infrastructure in place in our justice system to get through the caseload. So you want to help, get 13 judges
Yeah.
in there. And
Yeah,
guess
You know,
what?
I was
If the Democrats control both houses and that somehow that passed, they might
Mhm.
be able to offset the right-wing judges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a
Think
lot
about
of
it.
a lot of people don't realize how much the SCOTUS influences politics. Like 20 years ago, or back when I was Obama. How long has that been? Man, they made a decision that really has shaped how politics and dark money is involved today, because they made a decision basically says that corporations it was their First Amendment right to express themselves through their money.
Yeah.
Allowing all these political nonprofits in having donations that the donors aren't even being disclosed. That's actually legal now, and it just has escalated since. And this is what we have. We have politics we have a for sale sign. I mean, America has a for sale sign on it right now, thanks to Donald Trump.
Real cheap.
Absolutely. Well,
Just
guys,
good secrets.
yeah, man, I want to thank you both for coming on. You're welcome to come back anytime. We've had a great time.
Thank you.
I would love to come back to your show anytime. I think it's
Yeah, absolutely.
important for so many of us to get together and have these conversations.
Before I forget, can I add something? Sunday we're actually having Coach D. Coach D
Oh,
speaks
awesome.
from the Midas Touch Network on our show, which will actually be the third person from the Midas Touch Network. I'm trying to work my way up to Ben myself. We've had Fred Wellman, you, and then we're gonna have Coach D as well. So
And what time is that
working
going
my
to
way
be?
up the chain.
What time is that?
That'll be 2 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, so guys, be sure to go over to the Voice of Reason podcast and hit that subscribe button. And Mike, Jeremy, man, thank you guys so much for being here. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And thanks to Sally, Jeff, Stoneflower. I might have missed somebody that gifted memberships. We really appreciate you. And I'll be back here again next Friday. I'm working on a guest at the moment. So you guys come back and see us. And be sure to go over, once again, thanks, Mike and Jeremy. Subscribe to their channel, The Voice of Reason podcast, and we'll see you guys soon.